Guy made his payment at the shop, he casually tapped his hand on the scanner, and to the cashier's surprise, the payment went through, leaving him stunned. What he didn't know was that the guy had a tiny chip implanted in his hand called an RFID chip, and it works in a way similar to a credit card, just with more features. The chip is inserted with a small injection and sits just under the skin, which is later programmed using a phone. After that, it's like having a hidden superpower with which you can unlock doors, make payments, and even open your car doors.
But ye are they that forsake the Lord Yahweh, that forget my holy mountain, that prepare a table for that troop, and that furnish the drink offering unto that number. Therefore will I number you to the sword, and ye shall all bow down to the slaughter, because when I called, ye did not answer. When I spake, ye did not hear, but did evil before mine eyes, and did choose that wherein I delighted not. Isaiah chapter 65, verse 11 and 12. Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha Kudash. No honor to our venerable apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, and peace and blessings to the Lord's elect, the house of David. All right, so Brother Haran coming back at you with another lesson, Lord willing to be edifying and uplifting unto the elect. And I'm going to jump straight into this article here. It's titled, Access Denied, How Age Rules Could Reshape the Internet for Everyone. Okay, and we brought out Isaiah 65, because in the time where all these things are happening, people are going to be in dire straits. Okay, think of the internet shutting down, or you having to prove your identity in order to use the internet like you use now, where you don't need to prove any identity. You just pop on there, create an account. You know, it could be fake. You could put fake credentials. It doesn't have to be real, right? And nobody's going to double check and say, hey, who are you? What is this? And so on and so forth, right? So back in 2021, I remember doing a lesson on e-safety that they were trying to introduce, and they were going to start off with Australia, or I believe Australia and the UK were going to be the first that was going to go with this trial thing. All right, this is back in 2021. So to see this thing come into fruition at the end, as they say, at the end of 2025, all right, is quite interesting how fast things are moving. Okay, literally shifting everything into a draconian state of living. All right, 1984 is coming to fruition. Okay, Aldous Huxley's Brave New World is also coming to fruition. This is basically the combination of 1984 and Brave New World all at the same time. It used to be you get one or the other, but this time it's both at the same time. Okay, and this is all leading to the famine of the word. So let's get ready. Right? It says, by the end of 2025, Australians may be among the first in the Western world to experience the full brunt of internet access being gated not just by age, but by identity, possibly even by ideology. Okay, on the surface, that's interesting. It says, on the surface, Australia's new online safety code seems commendable. Spearheaded by the e-safety commissioner Julie Inman Grant, the code demands search engines like Google and Bing verify the age of their users. Okay, now that's how they get their foot in the door. Like everything else they do, they always present it like it's something helpful for a so-called vulnerable population. And then once that is established, they expand who that vulnerable people could be as to why those changes are being made. So then it goes from just affecting a certain group of people that people allowed in the first place for this to happen to now affects everyone. Okay, remember with Vanessa, they start off with people who are, frontline workers and so on. And so they're always going to start like that, right? The people who are most affected and the old people and this and that. There's these narratives that they create. Okay, nobody really knows where they get their information from. They just come up with it and press it down with the media and these made up experts, right? And then they tell people, you listen to the experts, you trust the science. If you don't do it, then you're bad to society, you're a harm to society. All this madness. And people eat it up. No evidence needs to be proven, nothing. Just tell us and we're just going to do it. Crazy shit, right? But again, this is how they always get things done. It's called it's done under the guise of, making the society better, right? But by doing that in the name of progressiveness, all right, or advancement, so called, right? With every advancement that comes, that's less of your rights and liberties that you're gonna have. Okay, and that's how they're doing it. So it's literally step by step, something known as accelerated gradualism. All right. So ultimately, this is going to lead to a clampdown on the internet as you know it today. Okay, where you have to prove your identity, as in your government credentials, not just know, oh, I did the chat, what's that called? CAPTCHA? Yeah, I did the robot thing. I'm not a robot. No. We need to full proof of who you are. And that identity thing is going to go throughout everything else when it comes to food, when it comes to medication, when it comes to anything that you personally do. It will be tracked and traced through your identity, going to something known as blockchain. Everything that you do is linked to another thing that you've done or about to do. So you're literally being tracked based on everything you do on the internet. Okay, from the time you log in on your phone, the time you went on your Instagram, what you clicked on, what you looked at, whatever, everything is going to be tracked. It is being tracked now, but it's going to be tied directly to your identity, your actual identity, not your made up Instagram name or whatever. All right. So it says here, the stated goal, protect children from accessing pornography, violent content, and self-harm material online. Okay. So that's the start. And this is all commendable shit. I mean, most people in their right mind would be like, yeah, I agree with that. Of course, I think, people should be able to, have control over the internet so children don't have access to these things. That's commendable, but that's not a government's job to do. That's a parent's job to do, right? When we were growing up, our parents policed us on the internet. They told us you can't go on no Facebook and those kind of things. It was shunned. Okay. If you were watching YouTube videos like sports or highlights or something, that's about it. You Google search for school and that's about it. Ain't no pornography and violent content and self-harm material, all that bullshit that they do. Who's the one who's allowing it on their platforms in the first place? Who's allowing all this folly to become mainstream and trendy that all these children want to do? It's these same companies that are pushing this stuff in the algorithm. So it's very ironic when they come out and say, oh, we need to do things to protect the children. Meanwhile, you're the ones who's pushing all this madness, corrupting the minds. All right. And it's not just pornography, because a lot of the content that's spoiling the children's brains are these little kid shows, right? It's not even pornography or anything. No, it's the kid shows that these people got their children watching on these stupid little phones and tablets at a very young age. They're not even talking about pornography. They're talking about witchcraft. All right. It goes beyond freaking protecting children from pornography. How about you protect children from witchcraft? You're developing shows that literally be talking about Lucifer and the Blackstone and all these different. I'm like, what the fuck is this for kids? This is not appropriate for children to be watching. But they put it in an animation and they have these superheroes and villains, and they got these villains literally coming out like Klaus Schwab looking, talking about a new world order and the chip that we're going to be inserting. I'm like, yo, what the fuck? So they already programming the children, man. And parents have to be responsible enough to take care of these things so the government don't got to do it for you. You see how this is all playing out? This is all bugged out stuff. Anyway, so it continues, says, but beneath the surface of child safety lies a digital fault line, one that threatens to split the internet as we know it into into tightly regulated access zones based on biometrics, political views, and even religious beliefs. All right, and this is all, again, like I said, leading to the famine of the word. It says, that's the first critical question. The code is deliberately vague on the technical details, but suggestions include using facial recognition technology or requiring government-issued ID. Ooh, right? Check that out. In order to prove that you're actually of age to use the internet and you're above 18 years old, we need to see your face, facial recognition. We need to prove your identity. That's the government-issued ID. Soon it will be the radio frequency ID, because all internet-based, digital-based, right? Both methods, but before they get to the RFID part, they have to establish the system. They have to make sure that it's established and it's actually up and running, and then they can make the change. Because at that point, they have everybody on that system, in that system, under that system. Okay? It says, both methods come with serious consequences for privacy. Facial recognition, already controversial for its surveillance implications, could become mandatory for something as basic as using Google. That sets a dangerous precedent. The Australian government's own trials of such tools have shown mixed results, with concerns over accuracy and effectiveness. And when the CV thing started, remember, Australia was one of the big countries that was pushing it heavy. Okay, I forget I think it was the premier at that time. I forget his name, some ugly dude, right? And him, and then the chick from New Zealand. Okay, they were very, very draconian. And this was just when the CV thing popped off. You know, you need to go get your teeth. Go get your Venetians, your teeth. Like that shit. They were so annoying, bro. And they never stopped. Hey, we're not going to go back to normal until everyone gets the teeth. And oh my goodness. You know? And it was very freaking frustrating. I felt bad for those people over there. But guess what? Hey, people who are rising up and standing up against the oppression, they were arresting people, right? Sending the Centaurians to your house and shit, right? It's about to get much worse. You got ICE being formed as we speak right now. What you see ICE doing right now is just to get their foot in the door. It's just for people to see these things as normal. Soon they'll be storming your rooms, your houses, your neighborhoods on a whole nother level. Okay, imagine ICE rolling up in streets and with tanks and, you know, robot dogs and shit like that, on some like straight up crazy shit. And that's because ICE would just be masquerading the military, okay, to a degree. The Trump's, you know, machine men who are going to be coming out here and shredding people apart, they're going to be doing it in the name of protecting society. Okay, so get ready for that. It says, the Australian government's own trials of such tools have shown mixed results, with concerns over accuracy and effectiveness. And yet the code presses forward, with major tech giants like Google, Meta, and Microsoft supporting it through their industry association. Why? Likely because the level of control over user identity also gives them more data and more power. And that's what it's about. Power and control. It says, while the public justification centers on protecting children, the reach of the code affects everyone. All account holders, young and old, will now be subject to age assurance. There you go. In practice, this could mean being regularly logged out and forced to re-verify your age across multiple devices. Okay, and that's something known as zero trust architecture. Okay, where you have to prove your identity at all points in your usage of the internet. So it could create a track or / a footprint, you know, that they can always go back to and say, oh, this person logged in here at this time and they did this at that time, and so on and so forth. It says, it might even mean the end of anonymous or incognito searches. And it won't stop there. Once you can verify age, you can verify identity. And once you can verify identity, you can control access. Not just the content, but to the internet itself. Okay? And this is all, again, biblical prophecy. I'm going to get that real quick. We already know, all right, these things, but a lot of people are just coming in and they have no idea these things are all written in the scriptures to happen. You know, that's the key, because through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shai, not only do we understand the scriptures, not only do we understand the prophecies, we also understand the order of prophecy. And that's the key. That is the key. The order, the understanding of the order of prophecy is very, very key, especially in these days. Okay, we know World War III is not going to pop off nuclear, bombs going back and forth until the MOTB is brought out, right? But you got people here thinking that, oh my God, Iran and Israel, we're going to go to World War III. What are we going to do? To start getting their family, which you should, right? If you can, start preparing now, right? Because the famine, the actual physical famine, where there'll be, limited access to food and resources and so on and so forth, is also fast approaching. Okay, you seen the prices going up again, gas prices starting to pick up again, and little things like that. You notice in the grocery stores as a as an indicator of what's to come. Those things are happening now, and they've been happening, but now you're starting to see it pick back up. Okay, so that's another sign that okay, well, this thing's about to pop off soon, so you might want to be best prepared, right? But it's the book of Amos, chapter 8 and verse 11. It says, "Behold, the days come, saith the Lord Yahweh, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread." So we should say not just a famine of bread, right? Because you're gonna have a famine of bread, but it says, "Oh, nor thirst for water, but of hearing the words of the Heavenly Father Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai." Because all this internet safety bullshit they're doing is really to stop the truth from going out. Okay, that's what this is all about. Okay, because currently as we speak, you got a brother out in Australia right now. Okay, how is this potentially going to affect him? Isn't that in a way affecting the truth as well? If he can't post no works, right? And if that's the start, right, and it affects him, and he's a man of the Lord, then how much more all of us out here doing the works, right? So it's not just protecting the community type of shit. No, it's more of we controlling what kind of information gets out to the public. Okay, so continuing, it says it says this is where the most chilling possibilities emerge. What happens when the definition of quote harmful content expands? Already we've seen conservative voices throttled or banned from major platforms for views that don't align with progressive ideologies. Will opposing TG treatments for minors be flagged as hate? See, they protecting the children, but yet this is what they be pushing for. Minor attracted persons have rights, right? So that means they can harm children physically, but yet you want to police the internet so children don't get harmed. Yeah, let that make sense. Make it make sense, right? Pushing for TG treatments for children, right? But yet we got to police the internet so children don't get harmed. This is what we're talking about. They don't care about your children's safety. That's why children's safety should not be in the hands of your governments. It should be in the hands of your parents. Okay? It says, we read that. Will quoting Bible verses about sexual morality or immorality lead to a loss of internet access? That's all the famine of the word. Okay, quoting Bible verses is the word of the Heavenly Father. And if we can't bring that out, that means you can't hear it. And if you can't hear it, what you going to do? What you going to do? How you going to get the words that you need to survive in the days that will come in? It says the E-Safety Commissioner's Office has shown a willingness to interpret, quote, harm broadly. And under the new system, someone's digital footprint could be used not only to monitor what they post, but to determine whether they should be allowed to log on at all. This isn't hypothetical. In 2023, UN agencies began pushing for a universal digital ID system linked to biometric data. The goal? To verify who is accessing online platforms and ensure users are, quote, accountable for what they say. The World Economic Forum, the WEF, has also endorsed digital trust frameworks that could include reputation scores based on online behavior, and that's all part of the social credit score. All right, we just did a lesson on that a couple of days ago with Palantir pushing for the social credit score here in America. Okay? It says, in other words, we are approaching a world where you don't just need permission to speak, you need permission to exist online. Okay? It says, Australia is becoming the test bed for this new model of digital governance. If it succeeds, or if people accept it without resistance, it's likely to spread to other Western nations. Today, it's age verification for P-graphy. Tomorrow, it might be ideological screening for social media, email, or even banking access. Your ability to participate in modern life could be one AI-generated quote violation away from being revoked. Now, that concept of gaining access based on your social media track or slash behavior, right? I just use that word for now. We do that now, right? In the sense that when certain jobs that you go to, they'll ask you for your social media, information. so they could monitor and make sure that you're not, violating their, company policy or whatever, or even if you're eligible to be hired for that position. You know what I mean? So even that alone is something that you can think about as in on a lower scale when it comes to what they're trying to do, right? At least it's in your mind that it's possible, right? There is a system like that out there where you have to prove some form of identity to gain access. Why the hell do you think we have social security cards and all this? It's in the name of security, all right? But soon it's going to be in the name of just identity. You just got to prove it. Like, it's not really about security, but that's just what we told you it will be about, right? So it continues, it says, in the name of safety, peace and safety, we are building a system that could one day determine who gets to access the global public square. And while the architects of these systems promise they're protecting the vulnerable, the deeper threat may be to free expression, religious liberty, and the idea that the internet belongs to everyone, not just to those who pass the digital loyalty tests. We can all agree that children need protection, but from their parents and from their homes, from their families, not by the government. Okay, the government should not be playing a role in your personal shit. That shouldn't be a thing. But this is where we at. And I remember this back in, I think, 2015 or 14. There was a little advertisement that came out, and I believe it had Joe Biden in there too. And he was talking about how in the very near future, the concept of my children will cease to exist. It will be our children, because your children are not just for the parents who birthed them or who raised them or whatever, but it's actually for the community. So we as a community have got to come together and protect these kids and so on and so on. I'm like, and I told my mother about this, and I said, you know what this is going to lead to? They're talking about, oh, your children are no longer your children, they're our children. That means they're going to come up with rules for our children, and you're going to have to follow those rules, even though they're your own kids. Ain't that crazy? She's like, ain't nobody going to tell me how to, rule my own house with my own children. I said, the government will. And in a few more years, you're going to see. I said, they're going to be arresting people for ADD or an ODD, all right? Opposition defines disorder. This was a funny ass thing years ago, but now it actually exists right now as we speak. All right, this is all part of it, Anyway, so continue. It says, they invite surveillance, censorship, and control over the most basic of rights, access to information, and the ability to speak freely. Christians, conservatives, and anyone who holds countercultural convictions should be especially alert. Once these systems are built, they can be turned against any group the government or corporate overseers decide is dangerous. The history shows that standards of dangerous speech can shift with frightening speed. Okay, and I want to make one more point, and then I think we're almost done with this, right? Which is, you notice the reason why they have to do it this way is because the tried and true tactic that they've always used in the past isn't working, which is we're going to use different platforms to demonize these men, meaning the Hebrew Israelites, the true prophets of the Lord, right? I'm not talking about these are the camps that are made up and infiltrated. No, I'm talking about like actually starting from GMS on down, our apostles and elders of Great Millstone on down. We are the true prophets, okay? Because the Lord has given us a gift that these devils can't take away from us, okay? Which is the spirit of prophecy. So by prophesying, we're always going to end up with prophesying the downfall of this place. And that's the part that kills them the most. How are they talking about our downfall? This is our cash cow. Like, you mean to tell us that a new order is not going to work out and it's going to be destroyed and all this? Yes, I'll tell you that. You know it. You can go back and read the scriptures that we bring up. You can read it and go into the same words. You'll arrive at the same conclusions. Esau, Edom, you're done. There's nothing you can do about it. So their next tactic is, well, if we can't convince the public, right? Because it seems like every time we try to demonize the Hebrew Israelites, they grow. They grow in number. There's more and more people waking up to who they are, right? We're not going to say converting because it's not a conversion, right? It's just an awakening of who you are. It's who you are. You're just now knowing about it and doing something about it. That's it, right? So the fact that a lot of people are waking up to this Hebrew Israelite thing and leaving these so-called Christian churches that was created for deception and to create more obedient, passive obedient people, okay? Now you got people who are questioning the system. You got people who are saying, nah, no longer am I dealing with this. I want to be with the Most High Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai and follow my laws, statutes, and commandments to the best of my ability. Okay? Have my faith in Yahweh Shai and hope for salvation. All these different things is a change of ideology / change of behavior. And it goes against the system completely. Okay? So because of that, they're like, you know what? If we're trying to demonize them and it's not working, we're just going to stop them from speaking altogether. So people can't even hear it. Because it's different when people can hear it and we come in and say, oh, these guys are crazy. Watch out for them. But meanwhile, everything they're saying is exposing us. Right? So then what are we going to do? The more we try to demonize them, the more people wake up and turn and say, hey, you guys are demonizing them because what they're saying is true. You see? So we might as well just go ahead and shut this whole thing down rather than sit around and talk about we're just going to keep saying, oh, the radical black Hebrew Israelites are dangerous to society. That shit is not working anymore. Because how the hell are they dangerous and everybody's going to them and it's peaceful? If they're so dangerous, how come vocab is chasing after them, following them everywhere they go, and nothing happens to him? Right? Why is he so infatuated on such a dangerous group? And if it's such a dangerous group, how come they're never involved in anything that's actually a danger to society? If you really look at it, you know, of course, just by saying that alone, of course, Esau has the power to infiltrate and start some inside job, false flag shit and demonize all brothers all together. We know that. We're very aware of that, right? We understand that, you know, this devil has different devices that he can use. So we get it. We understand that. 2 Corinthians 2:11 says we are not ignorant of Satan's devices. So we know, right? But on the objective lens, or through the objective lens, all right, this truth is coming out, is cooking their ass. And they have to do everything in their power to stop it. And this first step is the first step of many that will be coming in succession in their attempts to stop the word from going out. Okay? So it continues as, if identity becomes the new key to the internet, then the next great digital debate won't be about content moderation. It will be about access control. Who decides who gets a key and who gets locked out? Australia may be the first to try this experiment, but the consequences will be global. Okay? Remember, this is a new world order. Okay? This is all part of the reshaping / poeoing / constructing of the new world order. All right? So be ready, man. Be ready. We're that much closer. We are that much closer, man. Every single day that goes by, we're that much closer. All right, so let's bring that back again in the book of Amos, chapter 8 and verse 11. It says, behold, the days come, saith the Lord power, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of the Heavenly Father Yahweh. And they shall wander from sea to sea, from the north even to the east. They shall run to and fro to seek the word of the Lord Yahweh, and shall not find it. In that day shall the fair virgins and young men faint for thirst. They that swear by the sin of Samaria, and say, thy power, O Dan, liveth, and the manner of Beersheba liveth, even they shall fall and never rise up again. Right? And that's synonymous with the book of Proverbs, the first chapter. Okay, going down to the 22nd verse on down. All right, the book will actually start at 20. It says, wisdom crieth without, she uttereth her voice in the streets. She crieth in the chief place of concourse, in the openings of the gates. In the city, she uttereth her words, saying, right? And modern day chief place of concourse really is the internet. Okay, the internet produces the most amount of traffic, right? You might have, let's say, if you go out to teach, right? You know, you're doing a live stream or whatever the case may be. You might physically be outside, but how many people are you actually going to interact with that are going to listen to what you have to say outside? You might have 1, 2, maybe 3 people pop up in a 2-hour span, right? Sometimes nothing. Nobody pops up. They just pass by in a 2-hour span, right? But online, on YouTube, you might have 30, 40 people. Some brothers have different channels that you have 200, 300 people watching at a time, right? So you have more traffic. You have more people. So today's concourse, and then they'd be on the common board, right? Putting precepts, you know, engaging in the lesson that's being produced through the Spirit, right? So that's the modern day concourse. That's the modern day, you know, so-called agora, if you will, right? It's the internet. Everything goes on over there. All right. People put things up there. People go up there to watch and listen, and so on and so forth, right? So it says here, verse 22, how long, ye simple ones, will ye love simplicity, and the scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge? Turn you at my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit onto you. I'll make known my words unto you. And very soon those things are going to cease. Okay? Having access to the words of the Heavenly Father will cease. Okay? Because you shun it anyway. Okay? You tell us not to prophesy unto you right things, to prophesy unto you smooth things. So you're going to see. All right? It says, because I have called and ye refused, I have stretched out my hand and no man regarded. But ye have set at naught all my counsel and would none of my reproof. I also will laugh at your calamity. I'll mock when your fear cometh. When your fear cometh as desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish cometh upon you. And speaking of whirlwind, you see what's going on in with these flooding situations out in Texas. All right, and may how shall be with all the elect members that may be in all these areas that may be affected by these things. Ultimately the Lord will protect us. But just seeing these things happening is just another sign, right? What is to come out of this? That's always the first thing you think about. Okay, it's happened, but what is to come after that? How does Esau, how do they capitulate, or not capitulate? That's not the right word. How do they, capitalize? That's the word. How do they capitalize on the crisis that's happening with this whole flooding situation? I heard the Carolinas might also be getting hit as well. And I remember earlier this year, through the Spirit, I was mentioning how this season of hurricanes and so on and so forth is going to rock. Like Miami is going to be a ghost town soon. Okay, that city is going to get rocked heavy. Or I don't know if it was a dream or something that happened earlier this year that I was like, damn, Miami got fucked up. But we'll see. Could happen, it could not happen. Who knows? But we'll see, right? But so the Lord says what? The destruction as a whirlwind, right? So all these destructions that's coming, all right, ultimately you're going to see fire, right? Scriptures tell you that the fire off sent out, right? So don't be surprised when you start seeing a lot of fire in different places. I heard Greece was getting cooked, right? So it's just going to keep on happening and happening and happening. That's all part of the signs of the end, okay? All these things happening at once. It's never happened like this before, but it's happening enough where people are even becoming desensitized to it. But we're not. We're paying attention to it. Okay, it's all part of the building blocks. All right. They says, then shall they call upon me, but I will not answer. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me. So that's synonymous with Amos 8th chapter, going into them wandering from sea to sea, right, looking for the word of the Lord. Okay. It says, for that they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord Yahweh. They were none of my counsel. They despised all my reproof. So now the Lord is going to take that away via this whole internet safety situation. Okay, that's going to go global, where you have to prove your identity and so on and so forth. Right? Once that time comes, bro, we're not going to be trying to prove our identity just to keep pushing the word that you already should be aware of. Nah, once the Lord says it's over, it's over. Okay, once He says it's over, it's over. All right. It says, therefore shall they eat of the fruit of their own way and be filled with their own devices. For the turning away of the simple shall slay them, and the prosperity of fools shall destroy them. But whoso hearkeneth unto me shall dwell safely, and shall be quiet from the fear of evil. Okay, you're going to be untroubled in the time of trouble. All right, that's synonymous with Isaiah 33:6. Okay, just that in the wisdom and knowledge alone is the stabilizer that we need, all right, to hold us on until we see those miracles come through, where the Lord said He's going to feed us, He will, help give us drink, have us living safely and dwelling safely, man. Okay, but just knowing that alone, that's that knowledge that we need. That's that confidence that we have in the Lord. Just knowing that alone, we know, hey, the Lord said He's going to do it, so He is going to do it. I just pray that I'm one of those people that He does it too, right? Meaning doing good to you, right? If you're faithful to the Lord, He's going to be faithful to you. If you're unfaithful to Him, He's going to be unfaithful to you. All right. But anyway, I'm going to leave it off there. Lord willing, you are edified and informed. In closing, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, B'chakodash, the water Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Until next time, Shalom.